Father, we thank you once more for your love and your mercies to us. Help us to realize what it really means to be loved by the sovereign of the universe, the Creator. Help us to know that it's not pretend and it's not forced. You really do love us. Help us to understand that you want to speak to us, that you want to be heard. May we open our hearts to you. May we know what you're saying. And may it be our joy to want to please you. Bless us now as we move through some of the words you have given us. May we understand what it means to have you speak to us. In Jesus' precious name, amen. In line with some of the things that we have been talking about here, I'm reminded of Ecclesiastes 8:4. It says, where the word of a king is, there is power. And who will say unto him, what doest thou? That to me is a very powerful thing to think about. God is the king. and what feeble creature, human being can say to God, what doest thou? What in the world are you doing? And yet I'm afraid some of us try to do that with God. We ask him, what in the world are you doing? Well, we don't talk to God that way, not if we have any intelligence. This morning in Acts of the Apostles, I was reminded, page 48, this was talking about the early Christians. And of course, those are real Christians. They had the apostles. Some of them had seen Jesus and heard him talk. This is the real thing, the primitive church. Page 48, one interest prevailed. One subject of emulation swallowed up all others. The ambition of the believers was to reveal the likeness of Christ's character and to labor for the enlargement of his kingdom. That's it. That's a Christian. Now don't start looking around. Is that me? That's the only thing I want to do is reveal the character of Jesus Christ, his likeness in my life. And is the only thing I can think about is helping people meet Jesus. Is that me? 6D. I handed some of these out a long time ago. Some of you may not have them. Pages of these kinds of quotes. I better be able to see this. Volume 6 of the Testimonies, 443. All who are indeed united to Christ by living faith will be partakers of the divine nature. Did you catch that? All who are really connected to Christ. They will be constantly receiving from him spiritual life, and they cannot be silent. It doesn't say they will not. It says they cannot. It is impossible for a person who has Jesus in them to not let it out. I'll read the next paragraph. Life always shows itself in action. If the heart is living, it will send the lifeblood to every part of the body. Those whose hearts are filled with spiritual life will not need to be urged to reveal it. The divine life will flow forth from them in rich currents of grace. As they pray, as they speak, and as they labor, God is glorified. That's Christianity. Okay? Now, did you hear anything in there about being theologically correct? What do people want to know? They want to know what the books say. Well, if they read the books properly, the books are telling you what the life of a Christian looks like. If we're reading those books incorrectly, we're going to start struggling about the 2,300 days. We're going to start struggling with doctrines. Now, doctrines are good. They're necessary. We need to know the truth. But Jesus said, I am the truth. He said the Jews were always fussing about what the book said. But they didn't get to me. I wonder if there are any of us who are doing that. Studying all the time and not getting to Jesus. Now, one of the reasons I'm sensitive to this is because every now and then, as I'm reading through the history of the church, I think about the people who were real Christians. The shepherds, who the angel sang to, and they did not sing to the church leaders at Jerusalem. Why didn't the angel sing to the church leaders? Are you getting this? They went to those shepherds. Now, what did those shepherds know? Could they quote the Midrash on Ruth? Probably not. What did they know? The angel sang to them instead of the people who thought they knew something. Why did the angel sing to them? They knew Jesus. He hadn't been born yet, but they knew the Messiah's coming, and they wanted that. They wanted to be delivered from their life of sin. They were not theologians. They were simple, common people who wanted the right thing. And anybody can do that. Anybody. So we need to slow down a little bit and figure out what a Christian really is. And we've got to set our eyes on that. Be a Christian. You can be a Seventh-day Adventist too if you want to. I think it's a good thing to be a real Seventh-day Adventist. But you can be a Seventh-day Adventist and go to church every week and not be a Seventh-day Adventist. All right, that's not our subject today. Let's see what I did to the computer here. Oh, okay, I better. Okay. What is our subject today? Last week I mentioned we'd be talking about Gethsemane. Okay? Why Gethsemane? Is there anything important about Gethsemane? Yes. Well, if it's in the Bible, it's important, isn't it? Does God put things in there that are not important? Everything is important. We just have to slow down to figure out what it is He wants me to know about today, Gethsemane. Gethsemane means wine press, by the way. How do you get wine? Yeah. Those grapes have to get stomped. Okay. And then you get some wine. They have to be crushed. There's a lesson there. You don't get the juice until you crush it. It's the same with the second age of the church. The second age of the church was Smyrna. And it comes from the word myrrh, which is a perfume. It was a big plant. It grew about 8 feet tall. And how did you get the perfume out of it? You beat it and crushed it. And that's the way God still gets perfume out of a Christian. You have to crush it first. Okay? So don't worry about being beat up. That's part of the plan. That's the only way to get the perfume out of you. The character of Jesus. All right. Now, what we've been trying to move into here for about 10 years. Did you notice that? 10 years, what we've been doing here. We've been moving towards understanding and getting and knowing we have it, the power of God. Not just going to church, the power of God. The power always does something. It can't just sit there. It's not possible. So I want to read a statement. I don't remember the page exactly. It's in Early Writings. I think it's 272. 272. The reason I have a problem with that is because she says almost the same thing back in the first pages of that book, Early Writings, around 40-something. But I know 272 has these phrases. So let's look it up. Quoting from Early Writings. Great power. Oh, I like those first two words. Great power was with these chosen ones. Who's she talking about? Great power was with these chosen ones. Said the angel, look ye, my attention was turned to the wicked. The unbelievers, they were all astir. The zeal and power with the people of God. Oh, that's where the great power is. The great power. The zeal and the power with the people of God had aroused and enraged them, the wicked ones, the unbelievers. Confusion was on every side. I saw measures taken against the company who had the light and power of God. What? Is that the church in Los Angeles? Seventh-day Adventist Church in Los Angeles? Is that what she's talking about? Is this the church in Detroit? Is it a Seventh-day Adventist church in Portland? Is it? Who is she talking about? The angel is showing this to Ellen White. Darkness thickened around them, yet they stood firm, approved of God, and trusting in Him. I saw them perplexed. Next I heard them crying unto God earnestly day and night. Their cry ceased not. Thy will, O God, be done. If it can glorify thy name and make a way of escape for thy people, deliver us from the heathen round about us. Deliver us from the heathen round about us. They have appointed us unto death. Oh, my computer is not working for me here. What's happening here? Here we go. Thine arm can bring salvation. And then she said, these are all the words that I can bring to mind. All seem to have a deep sense of their unworthiness and manifested entire submission to the will of God. Yet, like Jacob, everyone without an exception was earnestly pleading and wrestling for deliverance. Soon after they had commenced their earnest cry, the angels in sympathy desired to go to their deliverance. But a tall, commanding angel suffered them not. He said, the will of God is not yet fulfilled. They must drink of the cup. They must be baptized with the baptism. Does any of this sound familiar in the Bible to you?
Yep.
Jesus knew something the apostles did not know. It was time. It was time. He was going to Jerusalem to die. It's the time. Now we know. Why didn't they know that it was time?
They were blind.
They blocked it out. Why? Self. They did not want to know what God had to say. Self was in the way. So they could not understand. They did not have the Spirit of God. When a person has self, there's no Spirit of God. You can't have self and the Spirit of God at the same place. Okay? That was their problem. They did not have the Spirit of God, so they did not understand what Jesus was saying. Okay? He knew it's time. It's time. Now, this is the crisis of his whole human life. This is what he came for. And so he said, let's go. And they started out. And they noticed he was walking funny. It was like he was carrying a 500-pound weight on the top of him, trying to walk. What was that weight? Yeah. Your sin and my sin was on him. Now, was this a theory? Is the fact that he took our sins, is that just an idea that God had and he wrote it down in a book someplace? No, Jesus really was getting it. And it was heavy. He had all of the whole world's sin on him. And he's trying to walk. And he was sad. And they never saw him like that before. He was in terrible shape. He was just, depressed. It was awful to look at him. They didn't know what's happening here. It scared them. It really scared them. And as he was moving along, he could hardly do it. Twice he almost fell down and they held him up. Yeah. He was getting our sin. And he knew it's time. It's time. I'm going to have to pay for all of this now. Me. So they got over to the garden where they liked to pray. And he told 8 of them, you stay here. And John, Peter, and James, he said, you come with me. They went up to the gate of the garden. He says, okay, you wait here. And I'm going to go in there and pray. You watch with me. Okay? Watch with me. And then he went a little further. He made it just so far, and he fell down on the ground. He wasn't there kneeling like in the pictures. He was laying on the ground. And he knew, this is it. This is it. And something strange began to happen he had never experienced before in all eternity. Those beautiful rays of light from the Father began to pull away from him. And he sensed the separation happening. Oh, this is different. This is not something he was prepared for. The prophecies never describe what happened between Jesus and the Father at this moment. He had nothing to work with. And it was really happening. The Father was withdrawing himself from sin because he's going to have to deal with it now. Well, we won't continue to build this picture. We're trying to understand the relationship of what was happening there and what we just read in this little statement in early writings. Jesus, after a bit, dragged himself away. He needed some comfort. Did you know Jesus needed comfort? Yeah. People think God doesn't need anything. Jesus was a human. And you know, humans, when they're suffering, can use a little sympathy. And he needed some. And he dragged himself back over to those disciples who were watching and praying, and he was going to be comforted. And when he got there, what did he see?
Peter and James.
Isn't that amazing? No comfort there. He figured he'd be strengthened by knowing they were receiving something from God that would help him too. Nothing. They were asleep. They were just asleep. So he talked to them and he said, well, couldn't you watch with me for an hour? And he didn't mean 60 minutes. For this hour, what was he talking about? This hour. The one just before the next hour. What's the next hour? That's when the mob came. See? He wanted them to use this hour to be ready for when the mob came. And how were they using it? You see, they didn't have time to do what he said. They didn't have time to do what he asked them to do. They only had time to sleep. So he went back and he said, if it be possible, Lord, Father, let this cup pass from me. He had said that before. This is the second time. If it be possible. Nevertheless, your will be done. Well, he went back again. And he told him again, watch, lest you fall under temptation. Well, what did he mean with that? You're going to be in trouble if you don't watch. That's what he was telling them. He says, I've seen the future, and you don't have a good future if you don't start praying and watching. He came back, and they're still asleep. And this time he didn't say anything to them. But they woke up. They felt his presence. And they woke up and they looked at him and said, oh, this doesn't look good. This does not look good. He's bleeding. He's a mess. He's pale. He's starting to look like he's really sick. And he just left them. He didn't say anything. What'd they do? Well, the first impulse was, we've got to go help him. We've got to go over there and do something. And they said, well, no, he said, stay here. So they stayed there and then they fell asleep again. Poor apostles, just like us. This time, his prayer changed. I don't know how many people noticed the prayer changed. He didn't say if. He said if there's, he didn't say if anymore. He said, This is the way it has to be. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. Total submission. The other prayers, he was asking something. That third prayer, it changed. Your will be done. This is the way it has to be. Okay? And he fell to the ground dying. Jesus was dying. His human body could not take what was happening to it. But then an angel came. And the angel put his head on his lap and held him. And the angel said, take a look. That's the redeemed of all the ages. That's what you can do. And Jesus looked. And in that moment, he made the decision, no matter what happens to him, those are going to be saved. Yeah, he decided it right there. It was not decided on the cross. It was decided right there on that piece of ground between him and that angel. That was the victory, not the cross. Okay? Isaiah tells us he saw the redeemed and his soul was satisfied. The travail of his soul, see? He was satisfied. This has to go through whatever it costs me. And what do you suppose he thought the cost was going to be? He would never see the Father again. That was the cost that was in his mind. The Father cannot be where sin is. And that's what I am now. There will never be more sin anywhere in the universe except as it is in me right now at this moment. And the Father has already pulled away. I will never see him again. And the devil was right there telling him that. You and I both know this is too much for the Father to ever endure sin. Now that you have become this, you will never see him again. And do you know what Jesus thought next? The devil was right there telling him, is it worth it? Just think about it. The Jewish nation, your church, look what they're doing to you. Your church. Look at the history of Christianity. Your church. Your own disciples are going to betray you right now. Peter is going to deny you, and you know it. And look at those Seventh-day Adventists at the end of history. Is it worth it? Oh, what a terrible thing to put in front of Jesus. Is it worth it? He had to wait. So yeah, yes, if we just save one, it's worth it. See? We can't understand these things in our present condition. That's why we're going through this. We want to understand the mind of Christ. We want to understand what the power is. The power is love, but we have to get some. See? Well, it's not written any place, but you know, that angel that was there with... There's something in the Bible I keep seeing over and over again. There is an angel that was with Daniel. In the 9th chapter, he says, your prayer was heard in heaven, and the Father has sent me to tell you, you are greatly beloved in heaven. Who was that angel? That was Gabriel. We have a name. 600 years later, an angel came to Mary and told her, you are very special in heaven. You are going to have that holy thing, the Son of God. Who was the angel that talked to Mary? Gabriel. He made the prophecy with Daniel, and then he fulfilled it with Mary. Same angel. During the life of Jesus, there was an angel with him, Gabriel. And the angel that came to him while he was laying on the ground, I have to believe, was Gabriel himself. Did we just read in early writings where the mob came for the people of God and were there to kill them? The angels wanted to deliver them. That's what we just read. But she said a tall angel came and he said, no, you're not going to deliver them. Not yet. They have to drink the cup. Who was that angel? It has to be Gabriel. Gabriel himself. There are things the Bible doesn't tell us, but if you keep putting things together, you have to see a picture. Well, when Jesus had tried to tell the apostles some of this before it happened, Peter said, yeah, maybe them. Maybe them. But not me. Not me. I will never deny thee. Big Peter. And so here's Peter at Gethsemane when he should be praying for power, where he should be watching with Jesus, because Jesus was praying. Peter should have been making the preparation for the mob. But what did Peter do? He slept. No preparation. No preparation. Watch and pray. Now Jesus came back the third time, and of course they were asleep. Did he try to wake them up? No. They woke up and saw him, and he was a mess. His clothes were red with the blood. And some kind of a stupor was on them, and they fell asleep again anyhow. And Jesus said to them, sleep on. Sleep on. The flesh is willing. You do a lot of good talking about religion. The flesh is willing, but the spirit is weak. He was apologizing for them. He was trying to make an excuse for them. It's to sleep on. But even then, as he was saying those words, here they come. The mob. With pitchforks and sticks and who knows what all. And here come the elders of the church with him. The elders of the church. Here come these criminals and these riffraff. Here they come. And Jesus saw them, so he went to the apostle. He says, rise now. It's too late for you to get ready. Rise. It's time. You didn't watch and you didn't pray. That's that. And here they come. Well, you know the story. They all came and Jesus stood in front of the apostles. He said, who are you looking for? Jesus of Nazareth. That's me. That's me. And the angel, one angel from heaven, Gabriel, he's been involved in all of this every step of the way, see? He said, no. He stood in front of Jesus, between Jesus and that crowd. And they all saw that light, and boom, they fell down like dead men. All of them. Laying on the ground. These proud warriors. And Jesus was just standing there, calm, cool, collected. All evidences of what he'd just gone through were gone now. He's just standing there like a king. And all these people are laying on the ground. And the angel knew, I guess we can't do this indefinitely. The prophecy has to be fulfilled. The plan has to go forward. And so the angel pulled back. Oh, what a hard thing that must have been. Because all the other angels were up there waiting. Yeah, the ones that sang, peace on earth, goodwill to man. They're all there, only they're not showing themselves. And their leader, their commander is here in front of Jesus. And when he stepped back, it got dark again, and the people got up, and they got embarrassed. Yeah. They said, why did we do that? So they went after him again. They surrounded him. And Jesus asked him again, well, who are you here for? Jesus of Nazareth. He said, that's me. Let them go. And so they came up to him, and 2 Roman guards got a hold of him. Some of those Roman guards could be pretty big. They grabbed him by the arms, and they were holding him. They go get some ropes. So they went for the ropes. And Peter woke up all of a sudden. I said, no, they're not going to put ropes on him. The high priest servant was coming with the ropes. So we know what Peter did. He went for the head, but he wasn't very good at that sword. He's a fisherman. He missed. He just got the ear. And Jesus saw that. And said, oh, no, Peter. Peter. And so these 2 Roman guards holding him, Jesus went, and he put the ear back on, and then he went back to the Romans. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of Aikido there. I don't know. They couldn't hold him. He just didn't, when he didn't want to be held, he just... And he told Peter, you know what? I told this to the Mormon fellows, and they didn't get it. Jesus says if you're going to live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. That's what happened to one of their people. He was firing guns, and that was the end of him. Out the window. Well, there's a lot going on here. That's why I'm telling you the story, because There's a lot we need to understand is happening. They tied his hands. And the apostles were besides themselves. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. He said he could call 12 legions of angels. That's one legion for each apostle, see? And a legion has to be about 1,000 angels. It only takes one to kill 185,000 Syrians. 12,000 angels! All Jesus had to say was, I need a little help here. And the apostles are beside themselves. They say, what is going on here? They can't possibly take him. He's not going to let them do that, you see? They weren't getting it at all. That's bad. That's bad. And it makes us all look stupid. But they saw that's exactly what he's going to do. They're going to take him. And so Peter said, you know what? I think we're in trouble here. We better get out of here. They're gone. They all left. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. These are his beloved disciples. He has been training them for 3 years. They've lived with him every day for that whole time. They learned to love him. And now they just took off to protect themselves and left him all alone to face whatever those people were going to do to him. They left him all alone. I wouldn't even do that to my little dog. If a bunch of teenagers came and said, we're going to beat up on your dog, well, I say, well, okay, there he is, bye. I couldn't do that to my little dog. Just leave him alone so they could do that. The apostles left Jesus alone. Yeah, he was going to do Gethsemane all alone. That's it. The wine press. All alone. Everybody left him. Betrayed. Totally betrayed. Why? Why? Because they did not watch and pray with him. This hour was not used to get ready for this hour when the mob came. Peter did not fail when he denied Jesus Christ. That was not when he failed. He failed when he didn't pray. That's when he failed. They did not watch. They did not pray. They went to sleep. And they did not know what they lost. Yeah. They did not know what they lost by sleeping. They would not have forsaken him if they had watched and prayed. Peter would not have denied him if he had watched and prayed with Jesus. They would have been prepared by God to meet the trial. The time of trial is not the time to get ready. Okay? I wonder how many of our people worldwide are waiting for the time to come before they get ready. That's what Gethsemane is all about. It's trying to teach us something. The apostles failed because they did not get ready. They did not make the preparation. They didn't do what Jesus said. Watch with me. Jesus was praying. He knew there was a preparation necessary. Watch and pray. This is a part of the story I don't usually get into. It scares some people, I think. Maybe it should.
Yep.
There's a fella in this story called Judas.
Yep, you didn't mention him.
Now, we all know who Judas is. That's the bad guy. But I want to remind you, he was one of the 12. Now, Jesus knew who he was all the time, and he knew the problems there. But Judas was one of the church members. See? He was not one of the pagan heathen. He was one of the 12. And when the mob came, they came to that spot because Judas knew that's where Jesus prayed. See? Judas knew where he was going to be. He knew Jesus was going to be praying. And so he took the mob there, and he told them, the one I kissed, that's him. Well, Judas, when the mob got there, he got past him. He got over here and pretended he wasn't with them. And he went over to Jesus. He said, oh, Master, look at them. And he got next to Jesus, and Jesus looked at him and said, friend. Oh, friend. Do you betray me with a kiss? And nothing was bothering Judas anymore. He had no more conscience. He belonged totally to the devil. He didn't care that Jesus said that. And so he went up to Jesus, and Jesus just stood there and let him kiss him. Yeah. Now, I'm only telling you this part of the story because Judas is one of the church members. There are some other people who go to church with us every Sabbath who are going to lead the mobs to us if we are faithful. They will do it. And they're going to tell the mobs the inner secrets of who we are as a people to make them even worse. It's going to be people who used to go to church with us who are going to do the worst job on us. Now, don't look around, please. Don't do that. You just better figure out if you are not watching and praying, you might be one of those. There's a little thing that we went by kind of quickly. When Jesus noticed the elders of the church, yeah, they were there, the priests, the high priest, he looked over at them. And when Jesus looked at anybody, they knew he was looking at them. Yeah, there was something about when he looked at somebody. He looked right at them and says, this is your hour. Yeah, see, your hour. Here in the middle of the night, this darkness, this is your hour. You deal with the power of darkness. Spirit of prophecy tells us for the rest of their lives, they never forgot what Jesus said. Their hour was the power of darkness. What's it mean, power of darkness? It's the power of Satan. The power of Satan is in the darkness. He said, church people, this is your hour. Peter, James, and John had their hour, and they blew it. They slept. But this is your hour. The power of darkness, the hour of evil. 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 8 through 10. Then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power. What? The devil's church has power. With all power and signs. Now, have you ever heard about that power? Have you heard about the statues all over the world of Mary that bleed? Yeah. Where people go to have miracles done? Power! The devil has power in his church. Don't you think we ought to have some power? Why are we satisfied with stories? Why are we satisfied with praying and saying, well, whatever you want, Lord, doesn't matter what you decide, we don't expect anything anyhow? Where's the power? I remind you that Elijah, you know that full story. He was with that widow. He said, I'm hungry. She says, yeah, I know what you mean. He said, well, go over there and make me a piece of cake. And she says, well, I've got almost enough to make one. But I was going to make that for me and my boy, and then we're going to die. That's all we have. He says, no, make it for me. He didn't say, I'm going to share with you. He didn't say that. So he said, you make it for me. So she went over, she made it. She gave it to him. And of course, you know the story. The oil and the flour never failed. She kept making them. And she knew he was a man of God. She says, oh, man of God, the Lord is blessing us because you're here. And then the boy died. That's a blessing? That's what she said to him. She said, oh, man of God, is this the way you come to bless me? My son's dead. Is this what we get? And Elijah thought, well, it really doesn't look too good, does it? So what did he do? He took the child up to the bed, laid him out. And then he put himself like this on the child, and he said, Lord, give back the life. Is that the way you pray? He didn't say, oh, Lord, if it be thy will, if you can't think of anything else to do, if I might glorify your name, and all, if we have our formulas, if it's possible, maybe you can bring back the life. We'll wait and see. That wasn't Elijah. Jehovah, bring back the life. The child got up. Yeah. Do you know why he could do that? Because he heard God's amen before he spoke. You think about that. He knew that he could pray that way and the Lord would honor it before he prayed. Because God had already talked to him and said, I will honor you. See? That's a whole different way to pray. And I know it still works. I know it. And I'm not telling you something by faith. I'm telling you, I know it. I have seen the dead raised to life. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a game. It's for real. Right now, the same way as it's ever been. And it's not because we deserve something. No. It's because it's the same merciful God. Why was the high priest there? I'm thinking things through here as we're moving. Why was the high priest there? And the elders and the priests. They didn't want the mob to mess it up. So we're going to have to be there to see this is done right. Now, what couldn't the church do? They couldn't kill Jesus. It's against the law for the church to kill Jesus. The Romans only could do that. So although it was the church's idea, they had to get the Romans to do it. So the professed people of God joined themselves to the Romans to get it done. Anything sound familiar here? The professed Christians are going to join Rome to do the job on Seventh-day Adventists. Gethsemane is about us. The whole scenario is there. The mob is going to come for us. It's the Protestant churches in line with the Roman church who are going to put the whole world against us. The angel Gabriel is going to be there and all the other angels wanting to deliver us, but it's not going to happen. We've got to drink the cup. And the only people who are going to be able to drink it are those who have watched and prayed and made the preparation, who've developed a character like Jesus so that they can go through this. Nobody else is going to get through it. The time of temptation is coming to the whole world. That's what it says in Revelation. The time of trial is coming. We need to pass through that short time with Him before the trial. We need to know we have done it and are doing it, so that when the time of evil comes, we'll still be with Him. We will not be left alone. So when is the time of watching and praying? Right now. No time for games. No time for fun. I hate to tell you how many places I have been where they talk about fun after the sun goes down. This is not a time for fun. There's no fun here. There's not a word in the Bible about us having fun. If you just look at the Day of Atonement, it's a day for fasting. It's a day for getting control of things. knowing you're right with God. The hour of the wicked is coming. And I can guarantee you the people who do not learn to watch and pray and continue to sleep, they are going to fail. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. They are going to fail because you cannot come to the crisis and get an experience on that day. So we as Seventh-day Adventists have been talked to by God. He told the disciples 13 times, I'm going to die. Did they get it? Not an inch. Not the slightest little hint in their brain told them he's going to die. He told them plainly. Has he told us anything plainly? He keeps telling us, be ready. He didn't say get ready. He said, be ready today, now. Be in your preparation mode right now. Have it in your head how you're going to meet with those mobs with me. The same way as you are right now with me. You must see what other people can't see. There's a crisis coming. If we read any of the books, how can we avoid that? There's a crisis coming to the whole world. This is not another church. The other churches don't know any of this. Now I'm going to hit you with a punchline for today. The time of trouble. We'll try to take the real time of trouble next time. I'm not talking about that time when the plagues hit. I'm talking about the little time of trouble. You've heard that, haven't you? There are two different times of trouble. The little time of trouble and the big one with the plagues. The little time of trouble is what the apostles faced at Gethsemane. That was their little time of trouble. They were supposed to be getting ready during the little time of trouble for the big trouble when the mobs came for them. All right, seeing those two different things, a little time of trouble and the big one. If you go back into the church history, our church history, in 1892, Ellen White made a statement that Jesus would have come ere this. It was set up so that Jesus could wrap up this whole world by 1892. But it didn't happen. Because the church was asleep. So our Gethsemane has been going on a long time. But there were leaders, pioneers who really knew the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, and they said, well, but there's a little short time of trouble before the big one. We must be in the short time of trouble now in the 1890s. See? In 1888, this church faced a crisis. In 1888, two young men stood up and said, we must preach Jesus. Jesus. And the old-timers said, oh, are you trying to do away with the law? They said, you're going to ruin this church if you take away the Ten Commandments and the law. That's what we've been preaching. God sent those two men to talk to these people, to tell them, Jesus in the law. Don't just preach the law and just don't preach Jesus. Jesus in the law. And what do you get when you do that? the Sabbath. See? Well, what do you mean the Sabbath? We preach the Sabbath, don't we? I don't know if we do or not. I know we preach the seventh day on a calendar. But what has that got to do with the Sabbath? There's some of us joining the church just because it's logical. The calendar says Sabbath's the seventh day. Well, come on. God isn't going to take people into his kingdom because people can read a calendar. Here is the interesting thing. Ellen White says, in the short time of trouble, we will preach the Sabbath more fully. Have you heard that? The Sabbath more fully in the short time of trouble. Before probation closes. What is that? Preach the Sabbath more fully. How do you tell a person more than once it's the seventh day of the week? That's not the Sabbath more fully. How do you preach the Sabbath more fully?
God's command. Sanctification.
You get Jesus in it. You show what the Sabbath means. Jesus is the creator. He loves us. He redeems us. He justifies us by faith. You preach the Sabbath because of Jesus. Jesus in the Sabbath. And when we start preaching Jesus as our only hope and link it to the Sabbath and what that means together, now we can start talking about the Sabbath more fully. The love of God in Jesus. And when we finally begin to understand what the real plan of salvation is, that's what we're going to be talking about and living and showing the world is the character of God in Jesus through us. That's the Sabbath more fully. And we're not doing it yet, I'm sorry. How far down the road are we from 1888? Do you see how long we've been asleep? No, that's atrocious. Ellen White says in Testimonies to Ministers, oh, careful, brother, careful. You don't want to stir the people up there. You'll make fanatics. Be careful. A little more caution here. We don't want the world on our back. What do you mean, the Spirit of God? They're going to think you're a nut. This is all in the spirit of prophecy. She told us what was going to be happening to this sleeping church. And she labels it, she gives it a name. It's called Peace and Safety. Oh, we're doing so good. Look at our big churches. Look at our big hospitals. Look at our congregations. We grow 10 new people in the church every year. Look at our tithe potential. This was in the review just a couple weeks ago. Look at our tithe is way up, even though the economy's down. What they didn't tell you was the tithe figure is 44%. Is that supposed to be good? 44% of the people in this church tithe? But that article was congratulating us, telling us, oh, our tithe is up. I don't know from what. We have nothing to congratulate ourselves about. Do you know that there are churches in this denomination? I say denomination, not because we are a denomination, but because we have made ourselves one. There are people who think they should celebrate. We're still here 200 years after this church started. We are having our 170th anniversary celebration. Come and be happy with us. We should be crying. We're still here. Because we're asleep and we don't even know the difference. Gethsemane is important. God has told us about Gethsemane. It's in all the Spirit of Prophecy books, who we really are and what's going on. We need to wake up. And God is waking up some people. He's doing it. But they're the, quotes, different ones. Why are you different? Ooh, people don't know what they're saying when they say that one. I want to be different. If being like Jesus is different, let's get different. Christ in the Sabbath. When we get Jesus in it, now we're moving towards the loud cry. These are words we all know, but we have to get out of them. Where's the loud cry? Do you know we have been in the time of the loud cry since 1888? Yeah. The time of it. But the loud cry is not happening. The time of the loud cry and the loud cry are not necessarily the same things. See? The loud cry is going to be given when you can't keep people quiet. That's what we first read here. 16. It's not natural for a Christian to be quiet about Christ. It's not natural. Let's try to wrap here. This is in early writings, the commencement of the time of trouble. Does not refer to that time when the plagues shall begin to be poured out, but to a short period just before they're poured out, while Christ is in the sanctuary. At that time, while the work of salvation is closing, trouble will be coming on the earth, and the nations will be angry. Have we heard that here? The nations will be... That's Revelation, isn't it? That's the seventh trumpet. That's the third angel's message. The nations will be angry. That's in early writings. Yet they would be held in check so as not to prevent the work of the third angel. I have thought of starting something that says trouble is coming. That might get the attention of a few people. Because trouble is coming. Trouble is coming. We see it all around us. The last Time magazine had a whole article in there based on 2012. Where is trouble going to be? And here they have all these pictures of what the trouble that they see. The world knows trouble's coming. They don't know what to do about it. In America, we hear a party saying, well, we just need to get us elected and get the party out that's in there. Then you won't have trouble. Come on! That is such nonsense. I can't believe there's anybody in this world that believes that. We're in trouble, period. Doesn't matter which party's in there. We are going to meet a test, every one of us. When is the victory going to be won? Today. You're not going to win any victories then. The victory must be won now. We must know we're serious. We must know we are wrestling in prayer. We must know God is showing us what the power is. And we can know what it is, and we can live in that power. And that power will be shown by helping other people come to Jesus. That's the way it's demonstrated, that you have the power. We must be prepared. At that time, the latter rain, or refreshing from the presence of the Lord, will come to give power to the loud voice of the third angel and prepare the saints to stand in the period when the 7 last plagues shall be poured out. God's preparing his people. But it's a choice we need to make. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Let me just give one more thought here. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Okay, Jesus just told us something. Tell me, how shall we bring forth much fruit? How? There's only one way. Die. There is no other way to bring forth much fruit. That's why churches are dying everywhere. Dying. They're losing more members than they're baptizing every year. The signs are all there. We need to ask ourselves, am I dead? Do I have the life of Jesus? But am I dead? We read it here before. Romans 6, reckon yourself to be dead, but alive unto God through Christ. Yeah. Reckon. Now that doesn't mean go out and kill yourself. You can't do that. It says reckon yourself. You do the reckoning. God will take care of the rest. Okay? Right. The Bible teaches that Jesus is the ground. When you fall on the ground, you fall into Jesus. That's where you die. And from that ground, Isaiah tells us, God grows a tree of righteousness. See? The Bible figures are easy. Fall on Jesus, and he will grow you into a tree of righteousness. And that is not righteousness by faith. That is real righteousness. There's much fruit in what God does. We don't have to worry about what's coming. Jesus is not asking, are you able? Last time we settled that. I'm not able. Those poor apostles, when they were in bad shape, they said, yes, we're able. We can do it. No, we can't do anything. But if we watch and pray with Jesus, we are able with him because we've made the preparation with him. We will have a character that can meet the worst tests possible. We will have a character that Satan can throw everything he can possibly throw at us, and we will be victorious. Why? Because we already have the victory in Jesus. Jesus has already passed all the tests, and he will give us that victory if we make the preparation with him. We have already passed the test. We don't have to wait. If we learn what it means to be like Jesus. All right, that's a taste. Please study for yourself. Get in Desire of Ages. Read the chapter Gethsemane. See what you can find there. Then do one thing. Desire of Ages, page 83, she says, spend a thoughtful hour each day meditating on the life of Christ, but especially the closing scenes. That's what we're doing right now, is the closing scenes. Think about it. Every day, get something. Let God talk to you. This is what happened. This is what happened. It's coming again. Am I ready for that? How do I prepare for it? Complete submission and surrender to Jesus. Let's learn that one. Okay.